Hello and welcome back. It's time to watch the third and possibly final match of the Vintage Super League Season 4 Finals.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a one-sided affair so far. Luis, definitely, if you could pick your matchups in the dark, if you're coming in and I'm going to play Workshops and I'm going to play Blue White Standstill, you would choose to play those two matchups. So definitely a good start, and it sounds like our players are ready. So let's see what they brought to the table for our C decks.
Let's go. Luis is on Dredge, and Webb is on technical difficulties with Google Hangouts.
All right, so Luis has finally decided to show off his range. He's behind the curve with a lot of the rest of us, finally showing up with the Dredge deck, and we see why he's considered the luckiest man on Earth. He's got a 7-card opening hand with Bazaar of Baghdad, multiple Dredge cards, and Unmask.
And further adding to his luck, Webb is on Blue-White Standstill, which is usually a deck that's fairly soft to Dredge. It's almost impossible for it to win game one. It doesn't get all that much better post-board.
Looks like Webb is going to go turn 1, Land Mox, or Land Lotus, Monastery Mentor, Mox, Standstill. I don't know. I've run out of things to say.
Well, it would be really unfortunate if Webb did play Standstill, because Luis's hand, and he does play Standstill. Wow, which means that Luis has now free reign to just churn out zombie monsters until such time as Webb lets him draw.
Let's first point out how insanely lucky Webb's opening hand was against anything besides Dredge.
Against anything else, yes, against anything else. And I'll tell you from a lot of experience with Standstill, I would rather have a Standstill than a Mishra's Factory for Standstill. I understand Standstill. I'd rather have Top than Mishra's Factory. Top lets you dig and find all the cards you need, especially in a deck with fetched lands.
Well, the card he needs right now is Wastelander Stripmine.
Yes.
If he finds that, if he has that in his hand, or if he finds that in the top 3, this game is not over. It's looking very good for Luis still, even if he does get wasted, but it's not over. So I assume he did not find it, but he's activating Top again here.
Hoping it's the 3rd card down.
Right, and if he doesn't play Wastelander Stripmine this turn, I don't think there are RMs.
He misses his land drop.
Well,
he misses his land drop, and there has to be at this point part of Webb's mind that thinks, gosh, I hope LSV goes to 2 cards in his library so I can deck him with Standstill. You know this is at least going through part of his brain.
Yeah, I don't think Luis is going to need to find too much, especially if he's not looking to actually cast, a Dread Return. He can just, get some things out.
Yeah, it's really interesting to note that if Webb's deck selection had been in a different order, this all would have been very different.
Yeah, that was a big part of the conversation I had with Luis. He's like, Webb can be extremely crafty. Like, we have a pretty good idea of what his range is. We expect him to play a blue deck, a shops deck, and a storm deck. Those are the most likely 3. That could certainly vary. He could certainly play a Painter Servant deck. It's one he's talked about and has played in real life. We didn't really put Oath and Dredge as being decks that he was likely to play because they're not really Webb style. Of course, you could stow up with it anyway, but weren't expecting it. And then it's figuring out the most likely order. And if you had to choose, well, Webb gets to be on the play. Match 1, he'll probably put Storm there. Workshops is pretty versatile, especially on the draw. Probably put that in number 2 or number 3, and a blue deck in number 2 or number 3, with shops being most likely to be number 2. And
it all makes sense. See, I always think LSV is really clever, so when I picked my decks against him, I just full randomed them.
Yeah,
literally pulled out some dice and,
That is a pretty good approach. Now, it still doesn't mean that he's going to be in bad shape. Like, if you randomly determine the order of his deck, there's still a decent chance that it ends up the same. And you do expect that he's going to, lean on Storm to be first. It's just the most likely thing.
a 1 in 6 chance it ends up being the same, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a pretty full graveyard there for LSV. And he still has 20 cards in the library, so cleverly playing around getting decked by Standstill.
Yeah, I mean, he can dredge off this Standstill if he wants to.
He can. It looks like he just straight up drew them.
Unmask gets spell pierced.
Hmm.
There's still therapies and all sorts of nonsense. 4 bridges.
Well, is it just me,
How
or
does
is
Webb get out of this in Magical Christmas Time?
main deck Mindbreak Trap?
How does that get him out of all these zombies?
Main deck Balance?
All right. Well, Webb has 2 cards in hand, and he needs them to be 12 specific cards. But
you could have Moat. How about Moat?
Moat's a good card. I don't think it will win the game, but it's reasonable stuff.
All right, so I don't know. Magical Christmas Land, I guess. Rav Trap into Moat. Also, is it just me, or does it kind of look like the whole technical difficulty sign is in the Balaran font?
I'm going to go with it's you, even though we have now received confirmation that it is. I'm still just going to say it's you. Because I have no idea what that means.
That's that new font that they have on the new Magic cards.
Oh. The official font of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, the font, around the time that they switched to the new border and started putting the foily, shiny stickers on the cards, they went to a new font.
I'm going to choose to take your word for it.
No, it's...
Reluctantly.
It's not very different than the previous one, but it's just, like capital H looks different.
I feel like if I was Webb, I would have cast my Ravenous Trap earlier on in this turn before all those zombies got into play.
Oh,
well,
he might be setting Luis up for something. He might be setting Luis up.
Yeah, that does seem like
it's also possible. It's also possible that he has balance.
Oh, he for sure has balance.
He could also be setting up a giant brain freeze. Actually, he could go to his turn, play out some moxes, some repeals, and just brain freeze LSV right out.
Yeah, he probably will.
I don't know why he wouldn't. It seems like the correct play.
I can't find any flaw in it.
I know that I've defeated more than one Bomberman player with brain freeze.
I have never defeated a Bomberman player, nor have I lost to a Bomberman player. So,
Magic the Gathering Online is doing its best to prevent either of these things from happening to you.
I have played it on Magic Online.
I've definitely timed out while going infinite.
I think play testing for Season 1 or Season 2, I can't remember what it was. I ended up joining the one-on-one queue with Bomberman and got paired against Tom Martell.
So, I guess we don't get to see how much hate Webb has.
Yeah, that's the really interesting part. I mean, Webb could be drawing almost dead, or he could have a pretty good matchup. I have no idea.
Well,
I'm pretty sure he said that he had 4 Ravenous Trap, 4 Rest in Peace, 4 Containment, 4 Rest in Peace, 4 Containment Priest, and 3 Grafdigger's Cage, I think is what he said he had. But
how many brain freezes does he have?
4. Those are main. And 4...
Oh.
Wow.
3 Cage and 3 Priest. How many Rest in Peace, Randy? 1 Rest in Peace. Okay, that's so conservative 7 Dredge Hate cards.
That is a ton. There was a very reasonable chance that that number came back at 1 or 2. Very reasonable.
Yes, absolutely. In a regular Magic tournament, you wouldn't see any fewer, but Webb might have just decided that LSV wouldn't go the zombie route, and so just didn't play them.
It is very unlikely. Now, the problem is all of those cards, say Rest in Peace, are good against Oath, and that is a very big part of Luis's range. So
absolutely, yeah.
Containment, Priest.
Wow. Apparently his shop stack had 9 sideboard cards against Dredge.
I've already faced that one once. I'm sick of
that. Well, my shop stack with 9 sideboard cards against Dredge lost to Dredge.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that can happen. I mean, if they're able to keep a 7-card hand, that's the one thing. You have Bazaar or Baghdad to help find things, but if you are forced to mulligan, let's say to 5 or 4 cards, the odds of finding Bazaar plus Dredge card plus Colored Mana Source plus Answer is just so low. Now, if you're able to keep 7 and you're able to use Bazaar to filter a few cards every turn, at the cost of a card, you're basically sending yourself down to 5 but seeing 4 extra cards. Well, your odds of finding these cards are much higher, and you can actually interact, especially if you only need one thing.
That's true. Needing those 8 cards means that you're no longer playing a 1-card combo.
So Luis has a no Bazaar hand with Serum Powder, but Dragon Lord Kolaghan hand. So that is not going to be part of the equation after he uses the powder to mulligan.
Yeah, and he does get to keep a 7-card hand. Yeah, it's a pretty solid one, too. It has a turn 2 Nature's Claim.
Yeah, but it has no Dredge card.
It has no Dredge card, that's true.
It looked like he boarded in Mental Missteps as well, so just have that interaction right away.
And Web with a Cage right away.
Yeah, that's the start you want if you're Web. I mean, the start you usually want is what we saw last game. Though.
He gets to have a Mana Confluence. No, he's choosing not to, though. That's interesting. Maybe he wants to find a Mental Misstep to win the Mental Misstep fight.
I like Bazaaring here first.
No. I probably would have just gone for the Nature's Claim, but I'm not a Dredge player. I don't know.
Yeah, especially with things like Cabal Therapy in hand, where you could potentially clear the way for a spell if he wants to.
And you know that Web is on approximately 5 copies of Wasteland.
So Luis does not respond to the cage by using Bazaar, which seems
I would have responded if he has Mental Misstep in his deck, right? Because you could find Mental Misstep.
Yeah, I think that is something you want to do. So he does find, some interaction. There's another Nature's Claim and a Wismare, which could end up killing a Rest in Peace potentially.
Right, so do you name Force or Mental Misstep here? It looks like whatever he named missed. Now, it's also worth noting that Wismare can still make... He named what? He named Misstep, okay. Jace Force Priest is Webb's hand. That's quite a hand. Which... And there's the Priest. There she is. Ready to contain things.
It is definitely going to contain things. This is an absurd amount of hate.
This is. She's attacking, and the zombie vampire guy can't block. It's worth pointing out that LSV could make a 2/2 by playing the flying horse thing.
Yeah, he could play the flying horse thing.
Oh, that's interesting. That's actually a pretty good draw for LSV. Now he's going to be able to refire the Dread Return, refire the Cabal Therapy, and try to make those Nature's Claims happen. So LSV could have made 2 2/2 zombie tokens with Wismare and chose not to.
Yeah, it's probably not the route he's expecting to need to go to try to win this game, although I think part of this game is just getting as much information as possible to try to win in Game 3 because this is rough.
It's rough. I don't think it's unwinnable. I don't know. Having those extra zombie tokens could have done some good things.
Yeah. First Nature's Claim gets fired off.
Yep. All right. Webb
There
now
aren't
only
very many
has.
ways to kill the priest, though.
No, I think traditionally these lists play either Barbarian Ring or Cabal Pit.
Yeah, Luis had looked like 2 barbarian rings, but that will also kill his bridge from belows.
That it will. And I don't think he's hit the Barbarian Ring yet, so he couldn't use that to get rid of the priest, could he? So, are you surprised that last turn he didn't try to hit Jace? Because that also would have taken him off of Force of Will as far as we know, right? I think it's a higher variance play, but I think with where Luis is, he needs the higher variance play.
Yeah, this is I'm trying to sculpt what the most likely way for Luis to actually come back and win this game is, and it's not really realistic. Like, Jace is just going to add so much value. The clock is actually very fast. Nothing can happen with Containment Priest in play.
Oh, Luis saw a mana drain with therapy. Okay. That explains it. Now, on the bright side, the Fate Seal mode of Jace is not all that great.
There you go. This Dredge Curse is not looking to be lifted this game, at least.
We'll see if Randy is the only person that can break the curse, or if the curse itself is broken.
On paper, in Game 1, this is about as good a matchup as you can get, but as we mentioned, Webb's got a lot of sideboard cards, and so...
He does. And the thing about these sideboard cards is that Luis's deck can't really function with a single one of them in play.
No.
So these aren't cards like Tormod's Crypt that put up a roadblock. They just stop the deck from working.
The downside to the Blue-White Standstill deck is that if you do play a bunch of hate, there's not actually a lot of card selection. There's not a bunch of preordains and ways to actually go find the specific hate. So, if you board in 7 cards, obviously you're a favorite to see one, at least, your first 8 or 9 cards. But you're not necessarily a favorite to see 2, and there is enough interaction from the Dredge deck that dealing with 1 is usually pretty trivial. We saw Luis dealt with several, but the third one is just, it's tough.
And it's worth pointing out that the draw engine is Standstill, and its namesake is Standstill. Unfortunately, you can't really leave those in against a deck whose plan doesn't require casting any spells.
Yeah, you're happy to just go up to 8 and discard even if you didn't have the most important card in the deck.
Exactly. I guess we're seeing Webb resolving a brainstorm off Jace. So if you're Webb, I think ideally you'd like to find Rest in Peace. Short of that, counters are good, but I think Webb knows that the only way that Luis can get rid of Containment Priest involves Barbarian Ring, which counters won't stop.
Right, so just another Containment Priest, though, will should get the job done.
Absolutely. We're probably not going to see Swamp into Massacre here.
No. We could definitely see another Undiscovered Paradise into him, though, right?
That's true. That's definitely true.
Volcanic Fallout. That'll be good.
Oh, wow. Can't even counter that.
And kills Jace.
And he kills Jace? Wow. Man, that's a good 2-for-1.
Kill Factory too. Wow. Walking right into it.
Man, Triplex Simian Spirit Guide, fire it off right now. That'd be really powerful.
Wasteland
So-
with the undiscovered groups.
He did. Randy points out that Webb never wasted Randy's Bazaars either.
You didn't miss that interaction against me. You remembered that wasting Bazaar is the way to win and had a bunch
The
of
interaction
wastelands.
between his wasteland and your bazaar, that's a powerful interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, turn one ley line into multiple wastelands and me not having more than 5 cards in any hand and couldn't find anything. No Bazaars. Because he remembered to kill them. It was unlucky.
And this is just a tough spot for Luis.
Yeah, most spots where you're like 0% are bad.
I agree. Yeah.
He's just going for trying to find the Barbarian Ring, milling himself essentially for 3 to try to Petrified Field it back, which could kill the Containment Priest, but who knows what Jace has found. I assume it's found 4 or 5 Ravenous Traps and 6 Crucibles, and it's still in play. Mistress Factory's in play.
Right, and Luis doesn't have all that long.
No. Oh, I mean, I assume the reason why he went for the Undiscovered Paradise is that if Mana Confluence gets tapped one more time, it's a 2-turn clock.
And if you can prevent Luis from having red mana, Barbarian Ring requires red mana to activate, as well as, of course, Threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Luis is taunted by the prospect of those Icaries coming back. Of course, they can't on account of Containment Priest.
I thought Narcomoeba can come in, right?
Nope. Barbarian Ring has arrived in the graveyard.
Right on time to be done.
For some definition of on time. So, Luis has to return it here, doesn't he? I mean, he needs to play it this turn because he doesn't have enough land drops left
He
to
can't.
wait.
That's like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, he does need to play it. Then he needs to draw exactly Undiscovered Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Mana Confluence will not do it. Webb needs to not have Wasteland, Strip Mine, Crucible, Mistress Factory, Containment Priest, Grafdigger's Cage.
Time Walk, Onera
Time
Bee
Walk.
Sting, Ication
Shot.
Javelineers, and Expedite. Mog Fanatic, Firebowman. There are a lot of things that Webb could have to finish this game off. And he's digging for the Expedite, I think.
Yep, that's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Might be a brute
Randy
strength.
points out that Gut Shot would be an ironic way to defeat Luis. Fire Breathing would not work here. An extra factory actually would work here, though. Does he have the Army of Allah? Does not. Okay.
Fortify. Holy Strength.
That would have done it. Yeah.
Unstable Mutation. You ever play that card?
Oh, I've definitely played that card. I've lost to that card. That card's awesome.
It's a loss to that card, Edgecombe.
Well, sometimes someone's Arnim Jin gets a little unstable and then attacks and gets berserked and bloodlusted, and then you die.
Psionic Blast.
That's a good one.
Name all the cards from Alpha. Alright.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to go alpha, there's Psychic Venom and Twiddle. Take that. Luis's land.
So Lisa's taking out Wisp Mirrors and a Nature's Claim here. Didn't see Rest in Peace and saw Infinite Other Hate. Of course, Webb also has Rest in Peace.
I'm just kind of surprised he's cutting Nature's Claim, because Nature's Claim still works here.
Yeah?
I mean,
Well, he's doing it to board an ingot chewers where, your opponent has mental misstep, so that makes some sense.
Claims a hedge against rest in peace.
I think Luis is just reading all the flavor text on his cards right now.
I find that Dredge is actually a challenge to sideboard with.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's cutting the Dragon Lord.
Interesting.
No, Brian Kelly would not approve of that.
Neither would Brian Kibler. Maybe it's a Brian Kelly.
That's true. And
serum powder.
Luis can powder, and that hand's just terrible.
Oh yeah.
That hand's also terrible. Oh man, are we going to experience the full brunt of the Dredge curse?
We're well on our way. It's already very tough even when you have a good hand on 5 against a bunch of hate.
Wow. Yep. And the curse,
that only
ladies and
happens
gentlemen.
2% of the time and has happened.
Oh, he found it! He found it! He found it! Wow.
So a bunch of people have run the math, and apparently this is about a 4% happenstance. For me, it's a little over 60 for Randy. Happened multiple times in one match. Luis now his first time playing the deck. So I think someone forgot to carry a 1, and it was actually 41% of the time he mulliganed to 0 instead of
In the
4.
VSL, that does seem to happen quite a lot.
And this game is basically already over. I mean, I guess it already was when Luis mulliganed to 1, but Webb's hand looks to be solid.
Well, Webb has the Wasteland, which is really key. And Luis discards a Dredge card. Okay, so it's not as catastrophic a failure as it might otherwise have been.
Unless
Though
one
if
plays a
Webb
spell
has
here, in
any
which case it
hate
is.
cards ever printed, then doesn't have the hate card. So it's still a game, and it looks like Luis is going to build his very own flying man here. There he is, right from Arabian Nights. 1/1 flyer, blue.
Webb did keep a 7-card hand here.
Oh, wow. There is the Mentor.
Well, Luis didn't actually hit another Dredge card off of the first flip, so it should just be
There's a Mentor here to teach you important lessons about why you should never play Dredge, I guess.
Yeah, Dredge is heinous in every way.
And the old turn 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor. Turn 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, this looks like the type, I can't see Webb's hand, but it seems very hard for Luis to have lost in his hand. I mean, if he really kept a hand with no interaction, I was hoping to play turn 3 Jace.
I just figure, Webb thought that Luis had 2 games where he had a Bazaar without mulliganing to Oblivion. There's no way that happens 3 times in a row in the VSL.
Oh,
I don't think we've seen it before.
Yeah, so Luis basically had a Game 1 matchup that was unlosable. Game 2, he got pretty much annihilated by a bunch of hate, although I actually think he wins that game if Webb didn't have that second Wasteland. He found the Barbarian Ring. He was going to be able to win that next turn. There are other things that could have potentially interacted with that. Another Containment Priest would have got the job done, but Wasteland stopped that. In Game 3, the usual. As we know, it happens 41% of the time, and this was one of them.
The curse. Luis gets a 1/1 flyer, and that's his entire contribution to that game.
It is. So here's where things get interesting. Luis basically had the 3 dream matchups, and Webb was able to steal one of them, and now they get to actually decide what deck they want to play, and it's kind of a guessing game.
That's really interesting, and I'm kind of wondering what they're going to pick. So I know you've worked with Luis for this. If you were he, what deck do you go with?
Well, you can eliminate Dredge. Because,
I think Dredge eliminated itself.
Yeah, both because it's unplayable and because Webb tends to pack, between 10 and 15 hate cards. So maybe not the best choice there. And both the other decks are great. You kind of like them. If Webb goes back to Standstill, which you think is the least likely deck for him to choose in any situation, then you'd probably, I don't know. That actually is a lot tougher.
I'm hoping that they'll both play Standstill so I can watch a Standstill mirror.
Yeah, that is actually a good reason for Luis to choose Standstill. It actually is quite good against Shops, even on the draw. Against Storm, not quite as good on the draw, but you have a lot of sideboard cards, a lot of Arcane Labs, Flusterstorms, Mindbreak Traps, Force of Wills, Mental Missteps, a lot of good cards. Not the best matchup in the world, but a decent one. And if they just end up playing Standstill Mirror, as we saw, Luis has 2 Decree of Justice.
Yeah.
And the rest of the deck is going to be pretty much the same.
I like playing Landstill if I'm LSV.
Yeah. And if you're Webb, you roll a die.
I think it's actually Storm for Webb.
Yeah, that would be my first choice too.
I think Storm has a slightly favorable matchup against Landstill. Not great, but slightly favorable. And I think it has I think everything has a favorable Landstill Dredge matchup. I think,
of course.
I don't know. With the right sideboard, Fallen Empire's draft deck will defeat Dredge. So.
Yeah, I was going to say I had a completely unplayable Team Sealed deck this weekend, and I would have definitely beat Luis. So. The problem is choosing the Storm deck means Luis, if he plays Workshops is kind of good against Workshops as well. Just kind of a mirror there and kind of see where things go. But
he does have Tower of the Magistrate, but
he does.
I think I don't know. I think Storm versus Landstill seems like a reasonable thing to expect to me.
Yeah,
but
of course, knowing that Webb is most likely to choose Storm on the play. Or no, I guess Luis gets to be on the play. So I guess it is more likely that Webb is going to choose a different deck besides Storm, since Luis finally gets to be on the play for the first time in this match. But we're going to throw it to a quick commercial break and come back to see what our players are on for match 4.
All right.